Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06. It's already been a busy morning this 15th day of August, but this hour is going to be pretty busy as well, because coming up in 10 minutes, we'll check in with Dina Griffith, a member of the Loudoun County School Board, and then at 8:35, Adam Gillette of Accuracy in Media to talk about the resignation of the president of Columbia University that Adam had a say, and I think he's actually paying for her moving van. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Mercedes Schlapp and Mercedes.
And that's Larry.
Thank you. And we're joined by KT McFarland. It's like the three of us together again. People don't know this, morning. But usually on Saturday mornings at CPAC, the three of us are doing tequila shots around 10 a.m., right, as we're getting ready for the...
Maybe you, Larry, but not KT and I.
KT McFarland. I'm kidding. You
hey,
would
we're
never...
just getting back from church, Larry. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump and author of the book about her time there, The Revolution. KT, where do things stand now? It feels like there's been saber rattling going on between Iran. Well, I shouldn't say between Iran and Israel. Israel's just standing there protecting themselves. Iran's doing all the saber rattling and saber wielding, for that matter. Where do things stand with this projected imminent attack from Iran?
Well, I've never bought into the overwhelming World War III is going to start because Iran is going to unleash it. I think Iran has to do something because three of its top four guys, one out of Hezbollah and two out of Hamas, were killed by Israel. But I don't think they want to really get anything more than just a symbolic response, because here's why. The senior Iranian leadership has to worry that the assassination of the senior Hamas political guy happened in downtown Tehran, a few blocks from where they all live. Yeah. And it was not a missile strike. It was a bomb that had been planted weeks, months ahead, and then detonated. So if you're a senior Iranian official, you have to think, whoa, we have been so penetrated. Our security is really questionable. Does Mossad have my address? Yeah. And so Iran has all of a sudden the sense of maybe they don't want to escalate things. Now, that's on one hand. But on the other hand, I think Iran looks at the political landscape in the U.S., which is determining so much of everything right now in the world, and has to say, okay, we have a major wide-open window of opportunity because nobody's in charge in Washington. Kamala Harris is campaigning. In any way, we're not really sure what her position is. If it's anything, it's anti-Israel. And President Biden, well, nobody's seen or heard from him in days. So, Babylon Bee had a joke headline to say that the White House intern was the one running things at the White House. It's maybe not far from the truth. So if you're Iran, you're thinking, ooh, this is my moment. Whatever I do to Israel won't be responded to by the U.S. And you're also thinking, if Donald Trump wins, it's all over, so go now. And I worry about the nukes.
Your KT, Washington Post, which they're fake news, but they did come out with the headline, Gaza's health ministry says 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's war against Hamas. A full count is elusive. How do people give credibility to anything that the Gaza health ministry actually says?
Well, nobody sensible does, but maybe the Washington Post, they give a lot of credibility to it. But, it's always been, throughout Israel's history, that Israel loses the global PR battle. And the Iranians or the Palestinians or whoever you're talking about, they always seem to win it. I mean, I go back to 1973, in the October War of 1973, I was in the White House Situation Room working for Henry Kissinger as his, most junior aide. And Israel was attacked on all sides. Israel needed resupply desperately, and the United States was willing to do it. President Nixon pledged to do it, but no European country would let American aircraft refuel. And in those days, you didn't have the aerial refueling, so the United States couldn't get everything, heavy-lifted stuff, to Israel in time. The only way they got it was because they refueled off the coast, in the middle of the Atlantic, off the coast of Spain and Portugal. So the Europeans have long been resistant to anything to help Israel, and they've always been very worried more about their energy supply from the Middle East. So I'm not really sure that Israel ever wins this foreign policy war of words. I think that the other guys always win it. So I'm sure that there are plenty of people, probably including in the Harris campaign and the Biden White House, who are taking everything Hamas says at its word. again, my concern is in this window of opportunity, Iran, which is far closer to nuclear weapons than we thought.
Yeah.
And with the U.S. policy under Biden has been don't ask, don't tell. And so we're really not sure. But in the last, say, 3 days, some former senior UN nuclear inspectors have said Iran could be very, very close. So I'm worried that Iran takes advantage of this moment of disarray in Washington and distraction in Israel, where Israel is fighting for its very existence on a ground war.
KT McFarland.
Nukes.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm trying to get as much in as I can. KT McFarland, it was 3 years ago that the Biden foreign policy legacy was cemented with the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan. You and the President Trump's administration, most Americans were in favor of ending our presence in Afghanistan. That wasn't in doubt. It was how it was executed that was such a nightmare. Yesterday, we saw a parade of American military might now owned by the Taliban. That equipment, those helicopters, those tanks, all parading down the streets of Kabul in enemy hands. And it was demoralizing as an American to see that. Does that imagery, does that resonate across that area for our enemies, that they see this as the triumph over America that it appears to be?
Completely. And it's probably close to $1 trillion. It's not just the weapons that they left behind and essentially gave to the Taliban. It's all the military facilities that Bagram Air Base, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all, we've made the Taliban, or Biden has made the Taliban $1 trillion richer as a result. Now they can use those weapons, they could sell those weapons, and as you point out, they can use them for public relations value. But the withdrawal, the shambolic withdrawal from Afghanistan, marked the beginning of our problems. Up until then, I think that we had a lot of credibility in the world after the Trump administration, but that was the beginning of the mess, right? That was the beginning of everything that's gone wrong, because the world looks at the United States and says, oh, emperor with no clothes, or paper tiger. And then when Afghanistan parades the weapons, in a military day parade, while we're still giving economic assistance to Ukraine, to Afghanistan. So Afghanistan wins, it gets the weapons, still gets American aid, and we're still, flailing for our foreign policy.
God, we need to change so quickly. As always, KT, Mercedes and I could talk to you all morning between tequila shots. But
we were fighting over who was going to ask the next question.
I know, but we have a very busy hour here, so we got to
can't.
leave it there. Thank you, KT. Always good to talk with you.
Thank you.
It's 8:14.